"Do you know what this looks like? Me getting dumped by someone like you," she said, after I caught her with the man her parents chose. "They never saw me as their equal. I made sure everyone else saw the truth. So I'm Edward, 32, been working as an architect for the past 8 years. I run my own firm now with 3 employees and we've been doing really well. Not rich, but comfortable. Own my house, nice car, all that. Been with my girlfriend Kaylee for almost 3 years now. She's 29, works as CFO at her dad's company, and when I say her family has money, I mean they have money. Like generational wealth, country club memberships, charity galas kind of money. Her parents, Hugo and Catherine, have never liked me, and they've made that crystal clear from day one. I remember our first family dinner. Her mom literally asked what my parents did for work, and when I said my dad was a mechanic and my mom was a nurse, the temperature in the room dropped 20 degrees. Hugo just nodded like that explained everything about why I wasn't good enough for his precious daughter. The thing is, I'm not some deadbeat loser. I graduated from a top architecture program, worked my ass off at prestigious firms, built my own successful business from scratch. But apparently none of that matters because I didn't inherit daddy's empire or go to boarding school with the right people. They've been pushing this guy Theo on her since we started dating. He's 31, comes from some massive family corporation that does business with their company. His dad and Hugo play golf together. His mom and Catherine are on the same charity boards. It's like they've been planning this merger disguised as a marriage since these kids were in diapers. But here's what gave me hope all this time. Kaylee always told me she didn't care what her parents thought. She'd gotten into screaming matches with them defending our relationship. I heard her tell her mom once that she didn't care if they cut her off, that she loved me and that was final. Her dad tried the whole "he's not one of us" speech, and she shut him down so hard he didn't bring it up again for months. I trusted her completely. When she'd come home stressed after family dinners, I'd hold her while she cried about their pressure. When they'd make snide comments about my background at social events, she'd squeeze my hand and whisper that we'd leave early. She made me feel like we were a team against the world. Last Tuesday changed everything. I had a client meeting downtown at this upscale restaurant. I'm walking to my table, checking my phone, when I spot a familiar laugh across the dining room. I look up and there's Kaylee, at a corner table, with Theo. My stomach just dropped through the floor. I literally had to grab the back of a chair to steady myself. They were sitting close, way closer than any business meeting I'd ever seen. She was laughing at something he'd said, touching his arm, leaning in like they were sharing secrets. The way she was looking at him. Jesus, that's how she used to look at me when we first started dating. That soft, interested, completely focused on you look. I'm standing there like a complete idiot, trying to process what I'm seeing while my client is probably wondering why I look like someone just punched me in the gut. I managed to sit down and order drinks, but I kept glancing over. Every time I looked, the body language got more intimate. Her hand lingering on his arm. Him leaning across the table to say something that made her giggle like a teenager. This wasn't some stuffy business dinner her parents forced on her. This was a date, a real, actual romantic date, and she was enjoying every second of it. I somehow got through my client meeting, nodding and agreeing to things I probably shouldn't have while my brain was screaming. When I looked over one last time before leaving, Theo was paying the check and Kaylee was looking at him with this soft smile that made my chest feel like it was caving in. When I confronted her that night, she had this perfect explanation ready. The words came out so smoothly it was like she'd been practicing. "Oh my God, Edward, I was hoping you wouldn't find out about that," she said, immediately tearing up. "My parents ambushed me with it. Dad said Theo's family wanted to discuss some partnership details and it would look bad if I didn't go. I hated every minute of it, but I had to be professional." She even cried a little, saying she felt terrible that I had to see it and misunderstand. She grabbed my hands and looked me right in the eyes. "You know I love you. You know this family pressure is killing me. I'm just trying to keep the peace until we figure out how to handle them permanently." But here's the thing, I've seen Kaylee in actual business meetings. I've watched her handle partnerships and negotiations. She's professional but distant, never warm or personal. What I saw that day was intimate, warm, real. The kind of connection you can't fake. I wanted to believe her. I tried to believe her. But something in my gut was screaming that this was all wrong, that I just watched my girlfriend on a date with another man while she spun me a story about family obligation. Am I being paranoid? Has anyone else dealt with family pressure like this? Part of me wants to trust her, but that scene is burned into my brain, and I can't shake the feeling that I'm being played like the world's biggest fool. Edit, I know Theo personally through business circles. He's not married, definitely available, and he's exactly the kind of guy her parents dream about. And no, their companies don't actually need regular dinner meetings between a CFO and an external partner's son. That's not how business works. Update 1. Posted 2 weeks ago after my last post, I couldn't shake what you all were telling me. The whole family pressure excuse was complete bullshit, and deep down I knew it. So I started paying attention to her business dinners. The opportunity came last Friday. Kaylee told me she had to work late, then grab dinner with a potential client. Said she'd probably be home around 10, maybe later if the meeting ran long. This was normal enough. She does have legitimate business dinners sometimes, and I'd never questioned them before. But something felt off this time. Maybe it was how she spent an extra hour getting ready, doing her makeup twice and changing outfits 3 times. Maybe it was how she was vague about which client it was, just saying, "Some guy dad wants me to schmooze." Maybe it was the way she kissed me goodbye, quick and distracted, like her mind was already somewhere else. My stomach was in knots all evening. I tried watching TV, tried working on some designs, but I couldn't concentrate. Around 8 p.m., I couldn't take it anymore. I felt like a complete creep, but I got in my car and drove to the restaurant district downtown. I didn't even know what I was looking for until I found it. Kaylee's BMW was in the parking lot of this romantic French place with dim lighting and intimate tables. That's definitely not where you take business clients. I sat in my car feeling like the world's biggest stalker, but I had to know if I was losing my mind or if my worst fears were coming true. 20 minutes later, they came out together. Kaylee and Theo, walking slowly like they didn't want the evening to end. He had his hand on the small of her back, guiding her to her car. She was looking up at him with this soft smile I recognized, the one she used to give me when we first started dating. When they got to her car, he leaned in and kissed her cheek, but it wasn't a polite business farewell. It was intimate, lingering. His lips stayed pressed against her skin for way too long, and when he pulled back, they stood there for another minute just looking at each other like they were in some romantic movie. I felt like I was watching my entire life implode in slow motion. I sat there in my car for another hour just trying to process what I'd witnessed. Part of me wanted to storm over there and confront them both, make a scene, demand answers. But I realized I needed to be smart about this. If I'm going to end this relationship, and I am, I need to do it right. When she got home at 10:15, she launched into this elaborate story about the difficult client, how boring the dinner was, how she couldn't wait to get home to me. The words just flowed out of her like she'd been rehearsing the whole drive home. Oscar-worthy performance. I just nodded and said, "That sounds rough, babe," while inside I was screaming. The next morning, I did something I never thought I'd do in my entire life. I hired a private investigator. I know that sounds extreme, but I need documentation. In our social circles, reputation matters. Both of us are successful professionals with networks and reputations to protect. If this goes south, and it's going to go very south, I need proof that I'm not the crazy, paranoid boyfriend making shit up. I found this guy Tom through a lawyer friend. Former cop, very professional, specialized in infidelity cases. I felt dirty explaining the situation, but he was completely understanding. Said he sees this kind of thing all the time, successful women leading double lives, thinking they're smart enough to juggle multiple relationships. Tom's initial report came back within 48 hours. 2 more business dinners that week, both confirmed through photos and surveillance. both at romantic restaurants nowhere near her office, both ending with intimate goodbyes in parking lots. Each photo felt like a knife in my chest, but I needed to see them all. I needed to understand the full scope of her deception. I'm done. I know what I have to do. The hardest part is that she's still acting like the perfect girlfriend at home, making my coffee in the morning exactly how I like it, asking about my projects with genuine interest, planning our weekend like nothing has changed. Last night she fell asleep with her head on my chest while we watched a movie, and I had to fight every instinct not to push her away. It's like living with an actress who's really committed to her role. My hands are literally shaking as I type this. 3 years, Reddit. 3 freaking years of my life with someone who's been lying to my face every single day while playing house with someone else. How long has this been going on? How many other lies have there been? How could I have been so completely blind? Edit. To everyone asking why I hired a pie instead of just confronting her because I know Kaylee. She's smart as hell and has an answer for everything. If I confront her with just what I saw, she'll spin it into something innocent. She'll cry, she'll explain, she'll make me feel like the asshole for not trusting her. But professional documentation. Photos with timestamps. That's a lot harder to explain away. About the pie costs worth every penny for peace of mind. And yes, everything he's doing is completely legal. Public places, no privacy violations, just documenting what anyone could see if they were paying attention. Update 2. Posted 1 week ago, the pie delivered his final report yesterday morning, and it was even worse than I thought. Photos, timestamps, restaurant receipts, even audio of them talking intimately outside her car. 3 weeks of systematic documentation showing a full-blown relationship, not just casual dates. But the worst part was the conversation he managed to record Friday night outside her apartment building. Theo asking when she was finally going to end things with the architect, and her responding that she was working on it, but needed to time it right so she didn't look like the bad guy. Working on it. Like our 3-year relationship was some inconvenient obstacle she needed to strategically remove. I planned the confrontation carefully. Waited until Saturday morning when we were both relaxed, having coffee in our kitchen. I wanted to do this somewhere comfortable, somewhere she couldn't run away or make a scene. Kaylee, I said, putting my coffee down and looking directly at her. We need to talk about Theo. The change in her face was instant and devastating. All the color drained out of it like someone had pulled a plug. For the first time in weeks, I saw the real her. Edward, I can explain. No, I cut her off. I'm going to talk and you're going to listen. I laid out everything methodically. Every dinner, every lie, every time she'd looked me in the eye and told me there was nothing going on while she was building a relationship with another man. I showed her the photos one by one, watching her face crumble with each image. Her sitting close to him at dinner, laughing at his jokes. Him kissing her cheek in the parking lot. The flowers he bought her, still sitting in the passenger seat when she drove home to me. And this, I said, playing the audio recording on my phone, is from Friday night. Her own voice filled the kitchen. I'm working on it, but I need to time it right so I don't look like the bad guy. The silence that followed was deafening. She just stared at the phone like it was a bomb that had exploded in her hands. That's when the mask came off completely. You hired a private investigator, she screamed, jumping up from her chair. Are you insane? You've been stalking me. The transformation was incredible. Sweet, vulnerable Kaylee disappeared entirely, replaced by someone I barely recognized. Her face was twisted with rage, her voice harsh and cutting. I've been documenting your affair, I said calmly, though my heart was pounding. There's a difference. It's not an affair, we haven't had sex. Oh, so there's a threshold now. As long as you don't sleep with him, lying to me for months is perfectly acceptable. She started crying then, but these weren't the gentle, manipulative tears from before. These were angry, frustrated tears. The tears of someone who got caught red-handed, not someone who felt genuine remorse. My parents have been pushing this so hard, she sobbed, but there was venom in it now. They threatened to cut me off, to remove me from the company. You don't understand the pressure I'm under. You've never had to deal with family expectations like this. So you decided to string us both along while you figured out which option was more convenient. I was trying to figure out what to do. This isn't easy for me either. I love you, but Theo. He understands my world. My family accepts him. With him, everything would be easier. I wouldn't have to fight anymore. There it was. The truth finally laid bare in our kitchen like a dead animal. I wasn't worth fighting for. I was the difficult choice, the one that required sacrifice and struggle. Theo was the easy path, the one that led to family approval and social acceptance. You know what, Kaylee? You're absolutely right. Everything will be easier with Theo, because you don't have to choose anymore. We're done. I expected more tears, more apologies, maybe even relief that her secret was finally out. What I didn't expect was the raw, ugly rage that followed. You can't do this to me, she said, her voice getting sharp and dangerous. Do you know what this looks like? Me getting dumped by someone like you, someone like me. And there it was, her parents' voice coming directly out of her mouth, all the classist bullshit I'd been fighting against for 3 years. Someone like me, I repeated slowly. You know what I mean. The architect who thinks he's as good as old money families. My reputation can't handle being left by someone from your background. People will think I couldn't do better. I stared at her, this woman I'd loved for 3 years, someone I'd planned to propose to next year. She just reduced me to my bank account and family tree, dismissed everything I'd accomplished, everything I was, because I hadn't been born into the right social class. Your reputation, I said slowly, is going to be fine, because you're going to tell people that we mutually decided to end things. Clean, simple, no drama. And in return, I won't share these photos and recordings with your social circle or your family's business associates. She looked at the evidence spread across our kitchen table, and I could see her calculating, weighing the damage of being dumped against the scandal of being exposed as a cheater. Fine, she said finally, wiping her eyes with the back of her hand. Mutual breakup, clean split, but I want you out of here by tomorrow. I started packing that afternoon while she locked herself in the bedroom, probably calling Theo to tell him the coast was finally clear. 3 years of shared life reduced to boxes and garbage bags, photos of us together that now felt like evidence of my own stupidity. Edit. Some of you are asking if her parents know about the affair. I honestly don't think they do. I think they just kept pushing Theo without knowing she was actively pursuing it behind my back. But they definitely created the environment where this could happen. And yes, I kept copies of everything. I had a feeling this wasn't going to end as cleanly as she promised. Final update. Posted 3 days ago. Well, Reddit, this saga has reached its conclusion, and it's not at all what I expected when I wrote my first post 3 weeks ago. Remember how Kaylee agreed to tell people we had a mutual breakup with no drama? Yeah, that lasted exactly 48 hours. I seriously underestimated how angry she was about being left instead of doing the leaving herself. By Monday morning, my phone was buzzing non-stop with messages from friends, colleagues, and business associates. Apparently, Kaylee had spent the entire weekend crafting a very different narrative on social media and spreading it through our professional circles like wildfire. According to her version, I was an obsessive, controlling boyfriend who couldn't handle her success or her family's wealth. She painted herself as the victim of an emotionally abusive relationship, saying I had systematically isolated her from her family and friends, monitored her every move like a stalker, hired a private investigator to survey her when she tried to have normal business dinners. The social media posts were strategically brilliant. Nothing technically libelous, just carefully worded implications designed to make me sound completely unhinged. But it wasn't just social media. She'd been calling mutual friends with sob stories about my increasingly erratic behavior and how she'd been afraid to leave me because of my intense personality. My business partner Jake forwarded me screenshots of her posts around noon Monday. By 2 p.m., 3 potential clients had called asking if the allegations about my character and professional conduct were true. One client specifically asked if I had boundary issues that might affect my work relationships. I felt my entire world crashing down around me. 7 years of building my reputation, my business, my professional network, all of it under attack because I'd caught my girlfriend cheating and she couldn't handle being the one who got left. Tuesday morning, my lawyer called. Kaylee's family attorney had sent a letter threatening legal action if I continued to harass their client or shared private intimate materials without consent. They were trying to retroactively criminalize the evidence I'd gathered, painting basic infidelity documentation as revenge porn or stalking. She declared war on my reputation and my business, so I did what she forced me to do. I told the complete, documented truth. I made one comprehensive post on my social media accounts, calm and factual. No name calling, no character assassination, no emotional manipulation. Just the timeline of events with dates and the evidence I had legally gathered. I recently ended a 3-year relationship after discovering my partner was secretly dating someone else while repeatedly lying about her whereabouts and activities. I tried to handle this privately, but false statements about my character and professional conduct have forced me to provide context. I attached the key photos with faces blurred for privacy, relevant audio clips, and ended with, "I wish both of them well in their new relationship and hope we can all move forward with honesty and dignity." The response was immediate and absolutely overwhelming. Within hours, mutual friends started coming forward with their own stories about Kaylee's behavior over the past few months. Apparently, she'd been setting up this narrative for a while, talking to people about how difficult I'd become, how her family was concerned about my reaction to their disapproval, how she might have to make some difficult decisions about our future. Kaylee's post was deleted right after. But the damage was already done. But the real bombshell came when Theo's ex-girlfriend Emma reached out Tuesday evening. Turns out Kaylee had been pursuing him aggressively since last summer. Emma had screenshots of Kaylee asking mutual friends about Theo's relationship status, coincidentally showing up at events where he'd be present, even deeming him directly about business opportunities their families should explore together. "She's been stalking him for months," Emma told me over coffee. "I tried to warn him, but he was flattered by the attention. Rich, beautiful girl throwing herself at him. He couldn't see the manipulation." The professional fallout for Kaylee has been swift and devastating. Word travels fast in our business community, and lying, manipulating, and trying to destroy someone's career over a personal relationship doesn't look great when you're a CFO. Several major business contacts have quietly distanced themselves from her family's company. Her reputation for integrity, which is crucial in finance, has taken a massive hit. Meanwhile, my clients and professional network have been incredibly supportive. It turns out most people can recognize the difference between gathering evidence of infidelity and being actually controlling. The legal threats disappeared once my lawyer responded with our own evidence of defamation and false accusations. Funny how quickly that backing down happened when they realized they had no actual case. As for me, I feel lighter than I have in months. I'm focusing on my work, reconnecting with friends I'd lost touch with during the relationship, and honestly, I'm genuinely excited about dating again someday. Someone who chooses me freely, enthusiastically, without reservation. Thanks for all the support, Reddit. Sometimes you do need strangers on the internet to tell you that yes, your situation is exactly as messed up as it seems. "I can't keep making excuses for why my boyfriend works in IT support," she said, even lying that I was unemployed because she was embarrassed. She had no idea I just signed a deal that would change everything. "I've been with my girlfriend Serena for 2 years. I work as an IT specialist at a mid-sized logistics company making $65K, which isn't amazing, but it's honest work, and I'm actually really good at it. I handle their entire network infrastructure, database management, and system optimization. Serena works in marketing at some trendy startup and makes about the same, but she's always been super image conscious about status and appearances. Like, obsessively so. The problem started about 6 months ago when she began making these little comments about my job. "Oh, Nicholas fixes computers. when introducing me to her friends, with this dismissive tone like I'm some Best Buy Geek Squad guy. Then it escalated to her asking when I'm going to get serious about my career and find something more professional. She kept pushing me to apply for sales jobs or business development roles because that's where the real money is. Every time I tried to explain that my work is actually complex, she'd just nod politely and change the subject. It was like she'd already decided my career wasn't worth understanding. Last month at her friend Jessica's birthday party, I overheard her talking to a group of people about careers and salaries. Someone asked what I do for work, and Serena said, "Oh, he's between jobs right now, exploring his options." I was standing right there, holding her drink while she socialized. When I confronted her later in the car, she said she was protecting my privacy, and that I should be grateful she didn't tell them the truth about my dead-end tech job. That stung like a knife to the chest, but here's where it gets absolutely crazy. For the past 8 months, I've been working nights and weekends on a side project, a warehouse management system that I built from scratch. I made sure to develop it entirely on my own time, using my personal equipment, and keeping it completely separate from my day job to avoid any IP complications. It started as just a way to improve efficiency concepts I'd observed in logistics operations, but I realized the core prototype could be revolutionary for mid to large companies. I've been putting in 20 to 30 hours a week on this thing, learning frameworks, studying supply chain optimization, testing algorithms. Serena knew I was working on some coding project, but never asked for details. When I tried to explain it once, she said, "That's nice, honey, but when are you going to focus on getting a real promotion?" 3 weeks ago, I got contacted by Thomas Chandler, CEO of Technova Corp. They'd heard about my prototype through industry connections and wanted a demo. I was nervous as hell, but the presentation went incredibly well. Long story short, they bought the rights to the prototype and my expertise to develop it into a full commercial system for $1.6 million, plus a senior consultant position at $200K annually to lead the development. I signed the contracts last Friday. The money hits my account next week. I haven't told Serena yet. Meanwhile, she's been ramping up the pressure about my lack of ambition. Yesterday she said, "Nicholas, I love you, but I need to know you're going somewhere in life. My friends are dating lawyers, doctors, finance guys making 6 figures. I can't keep making excuses for why my boyfriend works in IT support." When I tried to explain again that my work is more complex than that, she cut me off and said, "When you start making real money, then we can talk about your career." Here's the kicker that makes this whole situation insane. I just found out Technova Corp acquired Serena's startup last week. She's been celebrating all week about joining a real company and keeps talking about their Christmas party next month where she'll finally get to network with successful people and executives who matter. I'm invited to that party as Technova's new senior consultant. She has no idea. Part of me wants to tell her about the deal and my new position, but honestly, after months of her treating me like an embarrassment, like I'm some loser she's settling for, I'm not feeling very generous. The way she's been talking about me to her friends, lying about my employment status, acting like she's doing me a favor by staying with me. Am I crazy for feeling like she doesn't deserve to know? Like maybe she should find out the same way everyone else does. I love her, or at least I love who I thought she was, but I'm realizing I don't like who she becomes around money and status. And I definitely don't like who I become when I'm constantly defending my worth to someone who's supposed to be my partner. What would you do? Should I tell her before the party? Should I let her find out naturally? Part of me thinks she deserves to know, but part of me thinks she's already made her opinion of me clear. Edit. For those asking, yes, the Christmas party is in 10 days. Yes, I'm definitely going. No, I haven't decided whether to tell her beforehand. Update 1. Posted 2 weeks ago, so I took Reddit's advice and decided to let the Christmas party play out naturally. I didn't tell Serena about the Technova deal or my new position. I just said I'd try to make it to her company party if I could get off work early. The week leading up to the party was torture. Serena was so excited, talking nonstop about how this was her chance to network with real executives and finally be around successful people who understand ambition. She spent hours planning her outfit, bought this expensive black dress specifically for the occasion, got her hair and nails done. Meanwhile, I was having daily meetings with the Technova development team, planning the rollout of my system across their entire warehouse network. The irony was killing me. The day before the party, Serena came home from work absolutely glowing. She'd been getting briefings about the new parent company and was telling me about all the important people who would be there. Then she looked at me in my decent but not expensive suit and said something that still makes my stomach turn. "You know what, Nicholas? Maybe it's better if you don't come tomorrow night. I don't want to spend the whole evening explaining your situation to people who could be important connections for my career. These aren't just coworkers. These are executives, department heads, people who matter. I need to make the right impression." My stomach dropped through the floor. 2 years together and she was disinviting me from her company party because she was embarrassed by my existence. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. I just nodded and said, "Okay, if that's what you want." She actually looked relieved. "It's not personal, baby, it's just business, you understand." No, I really didn't understand. The next evening I got dressed up anyway. My best suit, new shoes I'd bought with my signing bonus, the works. Serena had already left, assuming I was staying home playing video games or whatever she thought unemployed people do. I drove to the venue, this upscale hotel ballroom downtown, the kind of place that probably costs more per night than I used to make in a month. When I walked in, the first person I saw was Thomas Chandler near the entrance, talking to a group of executives. The moment he spotted me, his face lit up with this huge grin. "Nicholas, there's my star consultant. Perfect timing. Come on, I want to introduce you to the leadership team." For the next hour, I was the guy at this party. Thomas kept introducing me as the brilliant mind behind our logistics revolution and the consultant who's going to save us millions annually. People were genuinely interested in my work, asking technical questions about the AI algorithms, wanting to discuss implementation strategies for their own departments. I was in the middle of explaining machine learning optimization to the VP of operations when I spotted Serena across the room. She was with a group of her new marketing coworkers, wine glass in hand, looking polished and professional. I watched her scan the crowd, probably looking for executives to schmooze. Then she saw me, standing there in a circle of C-suite executives, gesturing animatedly while they hung on my every word. The look on her face was pure confusion. Her head tilted slightly, like she was trying to solve a puzzle. She couldn't figure out why I was there, why I was dressed so well, or why important people were actually listening to me instead of politely excusing themselves. I watched her excuse herself from her group and start walking toward me, but she kept getting intercepted by people who wanted to talk shop with me. Every few steps, someone else would pull me into a conversation about warehouse automation or supply chain optimization. That's when Thomas clapped me on the shoulder and said, loud enough for half the room to hear, "Nicholas, I still can't believe we got so lucky finding you. That warehouse management prototype is going to transform our entire operation once we scale it up. Best $1.6 million we've ever spent on future potential." Serena stopped dead in her tracks about 15 feet away. I could see her brain trying to process what she'd just heard. Her mouth actually fell open slightly. Thomas continued, completely oblivious to the drama he was creating. "And having you as our senior consultant at $200K annually to lead this development. Honestly, we should be paying you more." Then he noticed Serena standing there looking like she'd seen a ghost. "Oh, and you must be Serena. Nicholas has mentioned you. You must be so proud of this guy. He's absolutely brilliant." I will never forget the look on Serena's face. It went from confusion to shock to something that looked like panic. She managed to stammer out, "Yes, very, very proud." But her voice was shaking and she looked like she might throw up. The rest of the party was absolutely surreal. Word spread quickly about who I was and what I'd accomplished. People kept approaching me to congratulate me, ask about my background, discuss potential collaborations with their departments. The CFO wanted to talk about cost savings projections. The head of IT was fascinated by my technical approach. I felt like a completely different person than the guy Serena had been ashamed of for months. Meanwhile, Serena kept trying to get close enough to talk to me, but there was always someone else wanting to discuss business or ask technical questions. Every time she approached our group, I was deep in conversation with another executive or department head. She'd hover on the periphery for a few minutes, then drift away when she realized she couldn't interrupt. Around 10 p.m., the crowd was starting to thin out and she finally cornered me by the bar. Her first words were, "Why didn't you tell me?" I looked at her, really looked at her, and said, "Tell you what? About my dead-end tech job that you're too embarrassed to explain to successful people." She went pale. "Nicholas, that's not fair. I had no idea you were working on something like this. You never asked. You were too busy being ashamed of what you thought I did for a living." "I wasn't ashamed, you told people I was unemployed, Serena. You disinvited me from your company party because you didn't want to explain my situation to people who matter." We stood there in silence for a moment while the weight of that sank in. Then she said, "We need to talk about this at home. This changes everything." "Yeah," I said, finishing my drink. "We really do need to talk." I left the party feeling like I was walking on air, but also incredibly sad, because I realized that night that the woman I love doesn't actually know me at all. She fell in love with an image of who she thought I could become, not who I actually am. Edit. To answer the most common questions, yes, I really did make $1.06 from the prototype sale. Yes, the $200K consulting position is real. No, I'm not giving her another chance just because she found out I have money now. You guys taught me better than that. For those asking about my work, I spent 8 months building machine learning models that predict optimal inventory levels, automate reorder scheduling, and optimize warehouse layouts for maximum efficiency. It's not magic, just good math and lots of testing. Update 2. Posted 1 week ago. The conversation when we got home was something else entirely. I've never seen someone's personality do such a complete 180 so quickly. Serena started off apologetic, saying she never meant to hurt me and that she was just worried about our future together. But within minutes, the real conversation started, and it was fucking wild. "Nicholas, this changes everything," she said, pacing around our living room like she was planning a business merger. "We can finally have the life I've been dreaming about. We can get that downtown apartment I showed you, plan the wedding I've always wanted, maybe even look at houses in the suburbs." Wedding. We talked about marriage in vague, someday terms, but suddenly she was ready to walk down the aisle because my bank account got bigger. I asked her directly, "Serena, would you be talking about marriage if I was still making $65K at my old job?" She got defensive immediately. "That's not the point. You're successful now. You're ambitious. This is the man I fell in love with. But I'm the exact same person I was last week when you disinvited me from your party." That's when the mask really started slipping. "Nicholas, be realistic here. I work in marketing. Appearances matter in my industry. My career depends on networking and professional relationships. Having a boyfriend who works in IT support doesn't exactly open doors or create opportunities. I was never IT support. You never bothered to understand what I actually do." "You know what I mean," she said, waving her hand dismissively. "Look, I'm sorry if I hurt your feelings, but I was thinking about our future. I was being practical. Now that you're with Technova and making real money, everything's different. We can be the power couple I always knew we could be." The more we talked, the clearer it became. She wasn't sorry for how she treated me. She was sorry she misjudged my earning potential. She actually said, "If you had just told me what you were working on, I could have been more supportive." So I asked the question that had been eating at me all week. What if the Technova deal hadn't happened? What if I was still making $65K? "Would you still want to be with me?" She couldn't answer. Just sat there looking uncomfortable, fidgeting with her wine glass. What if I lost this job tomorrow and went back to my old salary? Would you still want to marry me then? Still nothing. The silence stretched on for what felt like forever. That's what I thought, I finally said. The next few days were incredibly tense. She kept trying to act like everything was normal, making my favorite dinners, being extra affectionate, suggesting weekend trips we could take now that we had the money for it. But I could see her looking at me differently. Not with love or pride in who I am, but with this calculating look like she was reassessing my market value. Then yesterday, things got really weird. Her friend Jessica, birthday party girl, texted me directly out of nowhere. "Hey Nicholas, Serena told us about your amazing success. We should all hang out soon. Maybe you could give my boyfriend some career advice." Then Ashley, another friend from her circle who used to barely acknowledge my existence, sent me a LinkedIn request with a message about exploring potential business opportunities and asking if I'd be interested in consulting for her company. Even Marcus, this finance bro from her friend group who used to act like I was invisible whenever we hung out, suddenly wanted to grab drinks and talk shop about the tech industry. These are the exact same people Serena told I was unemployed, the same people she was protecting from the embarrassment of meeting her loser boyfriend. Now they all want to be my best friend. When I showed Serena the messages, instead of being embarrassed or apologetic, she actually got excited. "See, I told you this would open doors for us socially. We should definitely start hanging out with them more." This is how networking works at our level now. Our level, these are your friends who you were protecting from my embarrassing unemployment status. Nicholas, don't be petty about this. This is business. This is how success works in the real world. You have to understand the social dynamics. That word petty. Like having feelings about being lied about and hidden away like a dirty secret is just me being small-minded and vindictive. I've been staying at my buddy Mike's place for the past 3 nights, just to clear my head and think things through. Serena keeps texting every few hours, asking when I'm coming home, saying we need to work through this together and figure out our future as a team. But here's what's really messing with my head. I can see how easy it would be to just go back. Accept her apology, enjoy being the successful power couple, let her plan that wedding she mentioned. Start hanging out with her friends who suddenly think I'm worth their time. Part of me wants that life, wants to be the guy who won. But I keep thinking about what you guys said in the first post. The person who loves you doesn't hide you away. They don't lie about you to make themselves look better. They don't disinvite you from important events because they're embarrassed by your existence. And they definitely don't suddenly want to plan a wedding because your bank account balance changed. I think I know what I have to do, but it's scary as hell. This isn't just about Serena anymore. It's about who I want to be and what kind of relationship I deserve. Do I want someone who loves me for my potential, or someone who loves me for who I actually am? Edit. For those asking about my family, my parents have been married 35 years and were never impressed by money or status. They raised me to value character and integrity over material success. They would be disgusted by Serena's behavior. Yes, I'm really staying at Mike's. No, I haven't been answering Serena's calls. Yes, I'm seriously considering ending it. This whole situation has opened my eyes to who she really is. Final update. Posted 3 days ago after staying at Mike's for a few days. I went back to the apartment yesterday to pack my things and have the final conversation with Serena. I'd made my decision, but I wanted to give her one last chance to show me who she really was. She was waiting for me with this whole elaborate setup, candles everywhere, my favorite dinner cooking, wearing this dress I'd always loved on her. The full romantic treatment. Before I could even put my keys down, she launched into this prepared speech about how we can get past this, and every couple has challenges, and how this whole experience has made us stronger as partners. Then she pulled out her phone and showed me something that made my blood run cold. She'd been posting on social media about my brilliant boyfriend's incredible success, and so proud of my man for achieving his dreams. Photos of us from months ago with captions like, always knew he was destined for greatness and power couple vibes. The same woman who told people I was unemployed 3 weeks ago was now claiming credit for my success on Instagram and Facebook. Serena, I said, setting down my bag. I can't do this anymore. She immediately shifted tactics. The confident celebration turned into tears, saying she'd made mistakes but that she loved me and wanted to grow together. Then came the promises she'd be more supportive. She understood now how wrong she'd been. She'd never doubt me again. What if I lose this job? I asked her. What if Technova fires me tomorrow and I'm back to making $65K at some other company? That won't happen, she said quickly. You're too talented, too valuable now. But what if it did? What if I got sick or injured or the economy crashed? What if I never make this kind of money again? She couldn't look me in the eye. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it. There it was. Even after everything, she still couldn't say she'd love me without the money. I'm moving out, I told her. That's when she got angry. Really, truly angry. Started screaming about how I was throwing away 2 years and how I'd never find someone who loves me like she does. Called me ungrateful for not appreciating how she'd supported my career by pushing me to be more ambitious. The most telling moment was when she shouted, "You think you can do better than me? You're still just an IT guy who got lucky. Without me pushing you, you'd still be fixing computers for $65K." There it was. Her real opinion of me, even after the $1.06 M deal, even after seeing executives respect my work, even after everything. I was still just an IT guy who got lucky in her mind. I packed my essentials and left while she was still yelling. I'm moving in with Mike temporarily while I apartment hunt. Already found an amazing place downtown that I'm putting an offer on tomorrow. Never thought I'd be able to afford something like that, but here we are. The weirdest part has been the aftermath. Several of Serena's friends have reached out to me individually, some apologizing for their previous behavior, others clearly fishing for networking opportunities or business connections. I've politely declined all of them. Thomas and the Technova team have been incredible. They keep telling me how excited they are to have me on board, and we're already working on expanding the prototype system to full commercial scale across multiple divisions. It's the most intellectually fulfilling work I've ever done. As for Serena, I heard through mutual friends that she's been telling people I changed because of the money and became arrogant and materialistic. The irony is absolutely not lost on me, but I could live with that. I'm 28 years old, financially secure for the first time in my life, and finally free from someone who made me feel like I wasn't enough just as I am. It's scary starting over, but also liberating as hell. Thanks for keeping me sane through all this, Reddit. You guys helped me see what I couldn't see myself. I just didn't know she was also watching me at work, controlling my friends, and preparing divorce papers in secret. Turns out, my wife had a spy network at my office, a backup lawyer, and a plan to destroy my career. So this happened and I'm still processing it. I need to know if I'm losing my mind or if this is as messed up as it feels. My wife Rachel and I have been married for 2 years, together for 4. She's always been a little possessive, but I thought it was cute at first. You know, the whole, she loves me so much she gets jealous thing. But lately it's gotten weird. It started getting bad about 6 months ago when I got selected for this huge project at work. It's career-defining stuff, the kind of thing that could set us up financially for years. The team lead is this woman Heather who's honestly brilliant at what she does. She's also attractive, which I mention only because it's relevant to what happened next. At first Rachel was supportive, asked about the project, how it was going, normal spouse stuff. But then she started asking specific questions, like really specific. How long did you and Heather work alone today? What did you guys talk about during lunch? Did anyone else join your meetings? I thought she was just interested in my work. We've always shared details about our days, but her questions started feeling like interrogations. Every time I mentioned Heather's name, Rachel's whole energy would shift. She'd get this tight smile and start asking follow-ups that felt like traps. Then came the workplace incidents. Rachel started showing up at my office more often. She'd bring me coffee or lunch, which was sweet, but she'd always make a point of meeting everyone on my team, especially Heather. The first time they met, Rachel was friendly enough, but I caught her giving Heather these looks when she thought no one was watching. Not mean exactly, but sizing her up, like she was calculating something. It got worse from there. Rachel would make comments about Heather that seemed normal on the surface but had this edge to them. "Oh, she's really put together, isn't she? I bet she works out a lot. She seems like the type who knows how to get what she wants." When I defend Heather or point out she was just being professional, Rachel would backtrack. "Of course, honey, I'm just making conversation. You're so defensive lately." The breaking point was last week at the company happy hour. Rachel came as my +1, which was fine, but she spent the entire night basically territorial marking around me, touching my arm constantly, interrupting conversations I was having with female colleagues, making little jokes that weren't really jokes. When Heather came over to discuss some project details, Rachel literally stepped between us. Not obviously, she did this thing where she accidentally spilled her drink and had to clean it up right where Heather was standing. Heather had to move, and by the time Rachel was done with her performance, our conversation was over. I was embarrassed. My colleagues definitely noticed. Heather looked confused and kind of hurt. I tried to apologize later, but she just said it's fine in that way that means it's absolutely not fine. When I brought it up with Rachel that night, she turned it around on me. Said I was being inappropriate by having intimate work conversations at a social event. That Heather was clearly trying to monopolize my time. That any wife would be concerned about her husband's close working relationship with an attractive woman. I started doubting myself. Maybe I was being inappropriate. Maybe Rachel was just looking out for our marriage. But then I thought about it more and realized I've never given her any reason not to trust me. I've never cheated, never even come close. I don't flirt with coworkers. I talk about Rachel all the time at work. So why does she act like I'm one conversation away from having an affair? The worst part is it's affecting my job. Heather has started keeping our interactions strictly professional. Other team members seem uncomfortable around me. I feel like I'm walking on eggshells at work, which is insane because I'm not doing anything wrong. Rachel keeps hinting that maybe I should ask to be moved to a different project. For the sake of our marriage. She says it like she's being reasonable, like she's compromised, but it feels like an ultimatum. I don't know what to do. This project is huge for my career. I'm the primary breadwinner and we need this. But I also don't want my marriage to fall apart over a work assignment. Am I crazy for thinking this is too much? Is it normal for wives to be this involved in their husbands' work relationships? I love Rachel, but I feel like I'm suffocating. Update. Thank you for all the responses. Reading your comments is making me realize some things I hadn't considered. I'm starting to see a pattern I hadn't noticed before. Going to think about this more and probably post an update. Update 1. Posted 2 weeks ago. You guys would not believe this. What happened since my last post has me questioning everything about my marriage. So the day after I posted, I had what I thought was going to be a normal conversation with Rachel about the work situation. I wanted to establish some boundaries, told her I understood her concerns but that I needed her to trust me and stop interfering with my job. Her response floored me. She didn't get defensive or apologetic like I expected. Instead, she got this calm, cold expression and said, "Jordan, I think you're confused about what's really happening here." Then she started laying out evidence of my inappropriate relationship with Heather. Specific details about conversations we'd had, meetings we'd attended, even things like how long we'd talked by the coffee machine. Stuff that was so specific and detailed that there was no way she could know unless. "How do you know all this?" I asked. "People talk, Jordan. Colleagues notice things. They're concerned about you." That's when it hit me. She wasn't guessing. She wasn't picking up on vibes. Someone was telling her everything that happened at my office, every day. I started paying closer attention at work, watching how my colleagues interacted with me, looking for who might be feeding information back to Rachel. It didn't take long. Kate, who started around the same time I did, had always been friendly but never particularly close. But lately she'd been asking me questions that seemed innocuous but in hindsight were clearly fishing for information. How's the project going? You and Heather seem to work well together. Any fun work events coming up? I tested my theory. On Tuesday, I told Kate I was having lunch with Heather to discuss budget allocations. It wasn't true. I was actually eating alone in my car. That night, Rachel casually asked how my lunch meeting went and whether we'd sorted out the budget issues. I felt sick. My own colleague was spying on me for my wife. Wednesday, I told Kate I was staying late to work on presentations with the team. Again, not true. I was planning to leave at normal time. Rachel texted me at 6 p.m. asking if I was still in that late meeting with everyone. By Thursday, I was sure. But I needed to know how deep this went. I started really paying attention to Rachel's questions, not just the content but the timing. She'd ask about things that had literally just happened. Conversations from that afternoon, who I'd eaten lunch with, whether I'd talked to Heather that day. It wasn't just Kate feeding her information. Rachel knew too much, too quickly. Which meant either multiple people were reporting to her, or Kate was sending real-time updates throughout the day. Friday morning, I did something I never thought I'd do. I looked at Rachel's phone while she was in the shower. I'm not proud of it, but I needed to know. The group text was right there. Jordan Watch, it was called. Rachel, Kate, and 2 other women from my office I barely knew. Dozens of messages over the past month. Photos of me talking to Heather, screenshots of my calendar when I'd left my computer unlocked, updates about my mood, my conversations, who I'd been seen with. He seemed stressed today. Heather stopped by his desk twice. Lunch meeting ran long, couldn't hear what they were discussing. He's staying late again, working with H on presentation. Rachel was responding with detailed follow-up questions, asking for more specific information, giving instructions about what to watch for. I screenshotted everything and sent it to myself before deleting the evidence from her phone. When I got to work Friday, I felt like everyone was watching me, because they literally were. Kate smiled and waved like nothing was wrong, asked if I had any exciting weekend plans. I wanted to throw up. That evening, Rachel asked her usual questions about my day. I gave neutral answers while my stomach churned. She was sitting there acting concerned and loving while orchestrating a surveillance network at my workplace. "You seem tense lately," she said. "Is everything okay with the project?" "It's fine," I said. "Just work stuff. Maybe you should think about requesting a transfer. All this stress doesn't seem worth it." I looked at my wife, the woman I've loved for 4 years, married for 2, and realized I don't know who she is. The woman I married wouldn't hire coworkers to spy on me. She wouldn't try to sabotage my career because she's insecure about a professional relationship. But here's the thing that really gets me. She's not just controlling my work life. She's been isolating me from colleagues who could become friends or mentors. She's making me look untrustworthy and unprofessional. She's jeopardizing the project that could change our financial future. And she's doing it all while acting like she's the victim, like she's protecting our marriage from my inappropriate behavior. I haven't confronted her yet. I need to figure out my next move, but I can't keep pretending this is normal. Some of you asked about other controlling behaviors. Now that I'm looking for them, they're everywhere. She helps by handling all our finances, even though I make most of the money. She's gradually convinced me that most of my friends from before we met are bad influences. She knows my passwords to everything because married couples shouldn't have secrets. I thought I was in a loving marriage. Turns out I'm in a prison where the warden makes me dinner every night. Edit, for those asking why I don't just quit the project, this is my career. I shouldn't have to choose between my job and my marriage. The problem isn't my work, it's my wife's behavior. Update 2, posted 1 week ago this week, has been the longest week of my life. Everything came to a head, and I'm honestly not sure where my marriage stands right now. Monday morning, I walked into work knowing I had to do something about the Kate situation. I couldn't keep pretending everything was normal while she reported my every move to Rachel. But I also didn't want to blow up my workplace relationships any more than they already were. I decided to keep it simple. When Kate approached me around lunchtime with her usual friendly fishing expedition, "How's the project going? Any interesting developments?" I looked her straight in the eye and said, "You don't need to report on me today or any day after this. I'll be talking to my wife after I'm done today." Her face went white. She started to say something, but I walked away. I spent the rest of the day feeling like I was going to throw up, but also strangely relieved. At least the pretending was over. Word travels fast in an office. By end of day, I could tell people knew something was up. Heather actually stopped by my desk before leaving. "Jordan, I don't know what's going on, but if you need to talk," she paused. "Look, I've been in toxic relationships. If you need someone to just listen, I'm here." I almost broke down right there. This woman, who my wife has been treating like a threat and who I've barely been able to have normal conversations with because of Rachel's jealousy, was offering me support. It made me realize how isolated I'd become. The drive home felt like heading to my own execution. I'd been rehearsing what to say, but everything felt inadequate. How do you confront someone about orchestrating workplace surveillance? How do you explain that their behavior is destroying your career and your sense of self? Rachel was in the kitchen making dinner when I got home, acting completely normal. Asking about my day, chatting about weekend plans. For a moment I almost lost my nerve. This is the woman I fell in love with. The woman who used to build me up instead of tearing me down. But then she asked, "How was your day? Did you talk to Heather much?" And I remembered the screenshots on my phone. "We need to talk," I said. Her whole demeanor changed. She got that alert, calculating look I'd started recognizing lately. "About what?" "About the fact that you've been having my coworkers spy on me." I expected denial. I expected gaslighting. What I didn't expect was for her to double down. "I knew it," she said, crossing her arms. "You're having an affair with her, aren't you?" "What?" "Rachel, no. This is about you violating my privacy and interfering with my work." "Then why are you so angry about people keeping an eye on you? If you weren't doing anything wrong, you wouldn't care." The logic was so twisted it made my head spin. "I care because you're having me followed at my own job. You're making me look like a cheater and a security risk. I'm protecting our marriage from a woman who clearly wants my husband." "Heather has been nothing but professional. You're the one making it weird." "Professional?" Rachel laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. "Jordan, she offered to talk with you today." Kate heard her. "Does that sound professional to you?" My blood ran cold. Kate had already reported back about my conversation with Heather, even after I'd confronted her, even after I'd told her to stop. "This is insane," I said. "You're monitoring my conversations in real time now." "I'm doing what any reasonable wife would do when her husband is having an emotional affair." "I'm not having an affair, I'm doing my job." "Then prove it, request a transfer off the project." There it was, the ultimatum I'd been waiting for. Give up the biggest opportunity of my career or she'd continue making my life hell. "No," I said, "I'm not giving up my job because you can't handle me working with women." "Then I guess we know where your priorities are." She went to bed angry. I slept on the couch. Tuesday was worse. The atmosphere at work was toxic. Kate wouldn't make eye contact. Other colleagues were whispering. Heather looked stressed and kept her distance. Around noon, my phone started buzzing with texts from Rachel. Not angry ones, concerned ones. "I'm worried about you. You seemed so upset last night. I love you and I want to work this out." Classic manipulation. I'd seen enough Reddit posts by now to recognize love bombing when I saw it. But the worst was when I got home Tuesday night. Rachel had made my favorite dinner and decorated the table with candles. She was wearing the dress from our first date. "I've been thinking," she said, "maybe I have been a little protective lately. I just love you so much and the thought of losing you scares me." For about 30 seconds I believed her. I wanted to believe her. But then she kept talking. "That's why I think we should make some changes. You could ask for a different project assignment, not because I don't trust you, but because it's clearly causing us both stress. And maybe we should be more open with each other. Share our phones, our email passwords, that kind of thing." "We already share everything," I said. "Well, yes, but maybe we could be more intentional about it. I could come to your office for lunch more often. Get to know your colleagues better." More surveillance, more control, just wrapped in prettier packaging. Rachel, I said carefully, I need you to stop having people watch me at work. I'm not having anyone watch you. I saw the group text. Long pause, then, what group text? The one called Jordan Watch with you, Kate, and two other women from my office. Another pause. Then she did something that chilled me to the bone. She smiled. Oh, honey, that's not what you think it is. We were just concerned about you. You've seemed so stressed lately, we wanted to make sure you were okay. The gaslighting was so blatant, so shameless that I actually laughed. You had them take photos of me talking to Heather. To document your mood changes. You've been different since you started working with her. You had them screenshot my calendar. To understand your schedule better so I could be supportive. Every explanation made it worse. She had an answer for everything, and every answer made me feel like I was losing my mind. I'm writing this from a hotel room. I told Rachel I needed some space to think. She alternated between crying and yelling, depending on which tactic she thought might work better. The last thing she said to me was, "If you leave me for that whore, don't bother coming back." I haven't decided anything yet. Part of me still loves the woman I married, but I'm starting to think that woman never really existed. Edit. For those asking about divorce lawyers, I'm not there yet. But I did call my brother, who I haven't talked to in months because Rachel said he was negative about our relationship. Turns out he's been worried about me for a while. Final update. Posted 3 days ago, this saga has reached its conclusion, and honestly, I'm not sure if I should feel relieved or devastated. When I left off, I was in a hotel trying to figure out my next move. I'd been there 3 days when my brother Dave called. Turns out Rachel had been contacting my family and friends, telling them I was having a midlife crisis and having an affair with a coworker. "She's really worried about you," Dave said. "Says you've been acting paranoid and aggressive lately." That's when it clicked. Rachel wasn't just controlling me, she was controlling the narrative, making sure that if I ever tried to leave or get help, she'd already painted me as the unstable one. I told Dave everything. The surveillance, the workplace interference, the manipulation tactics. At first he was skeptical. Rachel had always been charming around my family. But when I showed him the screenshots of the group text, his whole attitude changed. Jesus Christ, Jordan, this is stalking. Thursday morning, I went back to work determined to start fixing the damage. I found Heather first and asked if she had a few minutes to talk privately. "I owe you an explanation and an apology," I said. "My wife has been having coworkers monitor me because she thinks we're having an affair. I know how that sounds, but I have proof." I showed her some of the messages. Her expression went from confused to shocked to angry. "Jordan, this could be harassment. She's creating a hostile work environment." "I know, I'm handling it." "Are you safe, like at home?" That question hit me hard. Was I safe? I thought about Rachel's mood swings, her ability to flip from sweet to vicious in seconds, her increasing demands for control over every aspect of my life. "I don't know," I admitted. "Heather helped me document everything for HR, not to get anyone in trouble but to create a record in case things escalated." Friday evening, I went home to have the conversation I'd been dreading. I'd been hoping against hope that Rachel would acknowledge what she'd done, maybe agree to couples counseling, something. Instead, she was waiting for me with divorce papers. "Since you clearly care more about your little work wife than your actual wife," she said, sliding the papers across the table. I sat down and read through them. She was asking for alimony, half our assets, and exclusive use of our house. She'd consulted a lawyer while I was staying at the hotel. "You filed these 3 days ago," I said, looking at the dates, "before you even knew if I was coming back." "I knew," she said. "The moment you chose Heather over me, I knew our marriage was over." "I never chose Heather. I chose not to let you sabotage my career." "Same thing." And that's when I realized there was never going to be a middle ground. In Rachel's mind, any boundary I set, any pushback against her control was betrayal. "Okay," I said. "I'll sign them." She looked shocked. I think she expected me to fight, to beg, to promise to be better. Instead, I signed the papers that night. "I've moved my stuff out. I'm staying with Dave while I look for an apartment. The weird thing is how much lighter I feel." I didn't realize how much energy I was spending managing Rachel's emotions, trying to be the perfect husband to someone who would never be satisfied. Work is getting better. Kate left the company. Apparently, she was worried about legal consequences for the surveillance stuff. Heather and I are back to having normal professional conversations. The project is going well. Rachel has been telling people I abandoned our marriage for a coworker. Some mutual friends believe her. It hurts, but I'm learning that people who would believe that story without asking for my side probably weren't great friends anyway. My family has been incredible. My brother said he'd been worried about me for months but didn't know how to bring it up. "You just seemed smaller," he said, "like you were apologizing for existing." That really hit home. I'm not going to pretend this is easy. I'm sad about my marriage ending. I'm angry about the 2 years I lost. I'm worried about what Rachel might do next. She's not someone who handles rejection well, but I'm also hopeful for the first time in a long time. I can have conversations without analyzing every word for potential offense. I can make plans without asking permission. I can succeed at work without it being seen as a threat to my relationship. I'm going to be okay. Better than okay, actually. For the first time in years, I'm going to be free. Thanks, Reddit, you probably saved my life. It was an emergency. I needed a vacation. She canceled our weekend plan while booking a resort trip with another man on my credit card. I was just heartbroken. I was being emotionally manipulated and financially drained. I'm Aurelius, 25, and I need to tell someone this story because I'm still processing how badly I got played. Maybe some of you have been here too. Maybe you'll see the red flags I missed. Met Serafina last September at one of those overpriced, design thinking for digital nomads workshops in Berlin. You know, the type corporate buzzword bingo disguised as creativity. I only went because a client was footing the bill. She slid into the seat next to me while some guy droned on about authentic brand storytelling and whispered, "God, this is such bullshit. Are you actually buying any of this?" Dark hair, green eyes, little birds doodled in her notebook margins. Not drop-dead gorgeous, but something about her felt real. "Complete bullshit," I whispered back. "No fireworks, no love at first sight, just two people quietly calling out the same lie. Sometimes that's more dangerous than instant attraction." We grabbed coffee after, then dinner. Then wandered Berlin until 3 a.m., sharing the kind of deep stuff you usually don't tell strangers. Childhood trauma, creative dreams, the weird isolation you get when you work alone all day as a freelancer. She told me about her anxiety, panic attacks, spiraling thoughts, the whole thing. I opened up about my college depression. When I finished, she squeezed my hand. "You get it. Most people don't." I know how this sounds, but in that moment it felt like finding a missing piece I didn't know I'd lost. Someone who understood the mental health struggle without trying to fix it or dismiss it. She lived in Barcelona, I was in Prague. Long distance sucks, but we started calling every night. By November, I was flying out every other weekend. By December, she was staying at my place half the time. Fast. Yeah, but it felt natural. Like we'd been doing this dance for years. Here's where it gets messy. What didn't feel natural was how one-sided everything became, and I mean everything. I was always the one calling first, booking flights, planning trips, making dinner reservations, initiating sex, starting conversations about feelings. You know that feeling when you're doing all the emotional labor but can't quite put your finger on why it feels wrong. "I'm not good at this relationship stuff," Serafina told me one night. "My anxiety makes me freeze up, but I love that you take the lead. It makes me feel safe." That word, safe, became her get-out-of-jail-free card for everything. She'd disappear for hours. "Sorry, I was spiraling. Cancel plans last minute. Panic attack. I literally couldn't function." Never plan anything herself. Making decisions overwhelms me. "But I love everything you pick." Look, I've been in the mental health trenches. I know what it's like to need someone steady when your brain is trying to kill you. So I became that person. The planner. The patient one. The boyfriend who wouldn't abandon her when things got hard. But the longer it went on, the more I felt like a caretaker instead of a partner. Tell me I'm not crazy here. Isn't love supposed to be mutual? The moments she was present were incredible. She'd curl up next to me while I worked, fingers in my hair telling me random stories about her day. Those rare glowing hours kept me hooked. They were like hits of a drug I couldn't get anywhere else, but they got fewer and fewer. By spring, Serafina was glued to her phone even during dinner dates. "Engagement is literally work, babe," she said, scrolling through DMs while I sat across from her. "This is how I pay rent," except she wasn't paying rent. By April, she was behind again. "I hate asking, but could you help just this once? I'll pay you back as soon as this campaign goes live." Of course I helped. What kind of man lets their girlfriend get evicted? But just this once became twice, then monthly. By May, I was covering half her rent plus my own. She always had a reason for it too. My anxiety ruined another brand deal. I lost a client because I wasn't posting enough. "You're such a good person. I don't know what I'd do without you." That last line should have been a red flag the size of Texas. But when someone's drowning, you throw them a life preserver, right? The worst part wasn't even the money. It was how any conversation about our relationship ended in emotional shutdown. "I think we should talk about, oh God, I'm spiraling. Can we not do this right now?" Later never came. And when I brought up my own stress, client issues, money worries, the loneliness of carrying our entire relationship, she'd redirect within seconds. "That sucks, babe. Anyway, I think Instagram is shadow banning me again." I stopped talking about my problems. What was the point? By June, I was walking on eggshells around her moods, always careful, always soothing, always absorbing her emotional chaos while pretending I didn't have any of my own. She said something once that should have woken me up. "I just want to be loved without the pressure to perform affection constantly." But that's exactly what I was doing, performing. Performing strength so she could fall apart. Performing love as a full-time job. Performing the role of the man who wouldn't leave. And because I'd fought my own demons with depression, I told myself it was okay, that I understood, that it would get better once she got better. Spoiler alert, it didn't. By July, I was emotionally drained, physically exhausted, but I didn't realize how far gone I was until I looked in the mirror one morning and didn't recognize myself. I wasn't sure if I was still dating Serafina or just managing her mental health crises. The thing about slow erosion is you don't see it happening until you're completely hollow inside. And the really messed up part, I thought this was love. I thought this was what good boyfriends did, sacrifice everything for their partner's well-being. August changed everything. That's when the real distance started, not just emotional but actual communication blackouts. The daily video calls stopped first. Serafina would text instead, "Too tired to FaceTime tonight, anxiety is bad." Then every other day, then just weekends, then radio silence. I'd call, she wouldn't answer. I'd text, she'd respond hours later with sorry, spiraling again. But here's what didn't make sense. Her Instagram was more active than ever. Stories every few hours. Posts about self-care and mental health awareness. Photos of expensive smoothies and boutique shopping bags. If she was spiraling so badly she couldn't talk to her boyfriend, how was she posting aesthetic content like a full-time influencer? I brought it up gently. "Hey, I noticed you've been active on social but haven't been responding much. Everything okay?" "God, you're monitoring my Instagram now. I schedule content in advance, Aurelius. Just because I'm posting doesn't mean I'm okay." The gaslighting was next level. She had me questioning my own memory, made me feel like a controlling asshole for noticing basic inconsistencies. Weekend plans disappeared next. We'd had this routine. I'd fly to Barcelona or she'd come to Prague every other weekend. Suddenly, she was too overwhelmed to commit to anything. "I can't handle the pressure of plans right now. What if I'm having a bad day? What if I can't be good company? I don't want to disappoint you." So I stopped making plans. Waited for her to suggest something, anything. She never did. Meanwhile, the money requests kept coming, actually increased. "My anxiety is affecting my work so much," she told me in late August. "I missed 2 deadlines this week. Clients are furious. I might lose my biggest account." Another rent payment. Another emergency expense. Another promise to pay me back when things stabilized. I was covering more than half her living expenses now, plus my own. My savings were disappearing fast. I started taking on extra freelance projects, working 12-hour days to keep up with both our bills. But I couldn't complain about being tired. She was dealing with so much anxiety. Couldn't mention the financial stress, it would trigger her guilt. Couldn't ask when she'd pay me back, that was putting pressure on her recovery. I was trapped in this weird dynamic where supporting her meant never mentioning the cost to myself. September was worse. She barely responded to messages at all. When she did, it was always about her mental health, her struggles, her needs. She never asked how I was doing, never asked about my work, my life, anything that didn't directly relate to her. It was like dating a black hole. Everything went in, nothing came back out. I started having physical symptoms. Insomnia, lying awake wondering what I'd done wrong. Nausea when my phone buzzed, never knew if it would be another crisis or another bill. My hands would shake before checking our shared expense account. Jake, my best friend since college, could see I was falling apart. "Dude, you look like absolute shit," he said when we met for drinks in Prague. "When's the last time you actually slept?" "I'm fine, just working a lot." "This is about Serafina, isn't it? You never talk about her anymore." He was right. I'd stopped mentioning her because what was I supposed to say? That my girlfriend only contacted me when she needed money or emotional support. That I felt more like a therapist than a partner. "She's going through a rough patch. Depression and anxiety are serious things." Jake studied my face. "Has she ever asked how you're doing?" The question hit me like a punch to the gut because the answer was no. In months of her crises, her work problems, her financial emergencies, she had never once asked about mine. "She's dealing with a lot, that's not what I asked, man." I changed the subject, but the question stuck. When was the last time Serafina had shown genuine interest in my well-being? When had she offered support instead of just accepting it? I couldn't remember, not once. October brought the real betrayal, not the dramatic movie kind, no confrontation or smoking gun. Just a slow, horrifying realization that everything I thought I knew was a lie. It started with Jake, scrolling through Instagram at a bar. He suddenly went quiet. "Dude," he said, showing me his phone, "isn't this your girlfriend?" It was a story from Callan Hikes, some travel blogger Jake had mutual friends with. The story showed Serafina at what looked like a luxury spa resort, lounging by an infinity pool in the French Alps. She was wearing a bikini I'd never seen, laughing at something off camera. Her arms were around a tall guy with dark hair and an expensive watch. My stomach dropped. "Who is this?" "Some travel blogger, Callan something." Jake kept scrolling. "Looks like they're at the Château de Montagne according to the location tag." I knew that place. Serafina had mentioned it before, said it was her dream destination, somewhere she'd go if she ever made it big as an influencer. But she was supposed to be home, spiraling with anxiety. She'd canceled our weekend plans because she was too overwhelmed to leave Barcelona. "Maybe it's an old photo," Jake suggested, but we both knew it wasn't. The story was timestamped 2 hours ago. I excused myself, went to the bathroom, called Serafina, straight to voicemail, texted, "Hey, how are you feeling today?" No response. I spent the rest of the night in this weird fog trying to process what I'd seen. Maybe it was innocent. Maybe this Callan guy was just a friend. Maybe the photo was misleading, but something in my gut told me I was about to discover something terrible. The next morning she finally texted back, "Sorry for being MIA, had a really bad spiral yesterday, barely left bed, better today though." I stared at the message, then checked the Instagram story again. Still there. Serafina, definitely not in bed, definitely not spiraling, definitely not in Barcelona. "Glad you're feeling better," I typed back. "What did you do yesterday? Anything that helped?" "Just slept mostly. Watched Netflix, nothing exciting." Bold-faced lie. Calculated, shameless lie. I wanted to confront her immediately, but something held me back. Maybe I needed to understand the full scope of the deception before acting. So I did something I'd never done before. I started investigating my own girlfriend. I went through our shared expense account, something I'd been too trusting to check regularly. What I found made my blood run cold. A charge for €1,200 at the Château de Montagne, booked 3 days ago. charged to my backup credit card, the one I'd given her for emergencies months ago and completely forgotten about. She'd used my money to go on a romantic getaway with another man, while telling me she was too depressed to function. But it got so much worse. I scrolled back through months of charges, restaurants I'd never been to, hotels in cities she'd never mentioned visiting, shopping sprees on days she'd claimed to be broke, all charged to my backup card, all while she was asking me directly for help with rent, utilities, basic living expenses. I'd been funding her entire secret life. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold the phone. I felt actually physically sick. How long had this been going on? How much money had she stolen? I kept scrolling, kept finding evidence. A pattern emerged. She'd use my card for fun, then ask me directly for money for necessities. Double dipping. Making sure she was covered while living like she had unlimited funds. The worst part wasn't even the money. It was the lies. All those canceled plans, all those claims of being too anxious to leave the house, all those times she'd made me feel guilty for wanting basic relationship things like communication and reciprocity. She wasn't too anxious to function. She was too busy living a double life. I sat in my apartment for hours, staring at the evidence on my phone. Part of me wanted to call her immediately, demand explanations. But a bigger part knew I needed to think this through, because this wasn't just about cheating or lying. This was about systematic manipulation, financial abuse disguised as mental health struggles. She'd weaponized her anxiety to control me, turned my empathy into a tool for exploitation. I thought about all the times I'd swallowed my frustration because she was struggling. All the times I'd gone without things I needed because she had an emergency. All the times I'd felt guilty for wanting her to show up for me the way I showed up for her. It was all calculated, every single bit of it. The final piece of evidence came on a Tuesday morning, delivered with the casual cruelty that only technology can provide. I was making coffee, trying to focus on a client project, when my phone buzzed. Serafina's name on the screen, but when I opened the message, I knew immediately it wasn't meant for me. He's still paying, I don't even need to ask anymore. 7 words that shattered whatever denial I had left. I screenshotted it immediately. Funny how clarity can steady your hands. When you finally see the truth, the uncertainty ends and with it the anxiety. 20 minutes later, another text. OMG, sorry, wrong person. That was about my dad helping with my car payments, lol. Even her cover-up was lazy. I'd been helping her with car payments for 3 months. She didn't have a father in the picture. That was one of the sob stories that had initially bonded us. For the first time in 9 months, I just didn't respond. Instead, I spent the day building a case like I was preparing for court. Screenshots of Instagram stories, printouts of every fraudulent charge, a timeline of her lies versus her actual activities, bank statements showing how much money I'd transferred. The numbers were staggering. Almost 8,000 euros in direct transfers, plus another 3,500 euros in charges to my backup card. Nearly 12,000 euros to support someone who was actively deceiving me. But the financial abuse was just the surface. The real damage was psychological. Months of being made to feel like my needs were unreasonable, my expectations too high, my desire for basic reciprocity selfish and demanding. She'd convinced me that love meant being a bottomless well of support while expecting nothing in return. That caring for someone meant accepting their worst behavior without complaint. Bullshit. All of it. I arranged to meet her in Vienna where I had a client meeting. Neutral territory. Public place. Coffee tomorrow. Would be good to catch up face to face. Yes, I've missed you so much, babe. Things have been crazy, but I'm in a much better headspace now. The heart emoji felt like a slap. How do you use heart emojis with someone you're actively robbing? We met at Café Central, one of those old Viennese places with marble tables and formal atmosphere. I arrived early, chose a back table where we could talk privately. She walked in 20 minutes late, looking stunning as always. New dress I'd probably paid for without knowing it, kissed my cheek like nothing had happened. You look tired, she said, settling into her chair. Have you been sleeping okay? The balls on this woman were actually impressive. Like I almost respected the hustle. 3 months of ghosting me, and she opens with concern about my sleep. I've been better, I said, placing a manila folder on the table. We need to talk. Her eyes flicked to the folder, then back to my face. I saw something shift, like she was calculating her next move. That sounds ominous, she said with a laugh that didn't reach her eyes. I opened the folder, pulled out the resort invoice, placed it between us. When did anxiety become an excuse to turn me into your personal ATM? She stared at the paper. I watched her face cycle through emotions: surprise, calculation, defensiveness. I can explain, she started. Don't. I pulled out the next document, the text message printed in black and white. He's still paying, I don't even need to ask anymore. Her face went pale. Aurelius, was any of it real? I kept my voice conversational, like we were discussing the weather. The anxiety, the financial emergencies, the inability to make plans or show basic affection. She opened her mouth, closed it. For the first time since I'd known her, Serafina was speechless. I pulled out more evidence: credit card statements, Instagram screenshots, bank transfers totaling nearly 8,000 euros. You want to know what's really messed up? I continued. I was actually worried about you. All those times you disappeared, claimed you were spiraling, I genuinely thought you were struggling. I felt guilty for wanting basic relationship things. She found her voice. I was struggling. My anxiety is real, Aurelius. Just because I sometimes did other things doesn't mean— Stop. The word came out sharper than I intended. Don't insult my intelligence by pretending this was about mental health. Something changed in her face then. The mask slipped completely. The vulnerable, anxious girl disappeared, replaced by someone cold and calculating. Fine, she said, leaning back. You want honesty, let's be honest. I waited. You were convenient, Aurelius, not exciting, not passionate, just safe, predictable. You made my life easier. There it was, the truth I'd been circling for months. I never lied about needing help, she continued. I just didn't expect you to give so much without asking questions. That's on you. So this is my fault. You made yourself available to be used. You threw money at me without me even asking half the time. You planned everything, paid for everything, managed everything. You wanted to be the knight in shining armor. Congratulations. You got exactly what you asked for. I felt something crystallize inside me. Cold clarity I'd never experienced before. And Callan, she shrugged. He's exciting, unpredictable. He doesn't try to fix me or manage my emotions. He just lets me be. On my credit card. You gave me that card for emergencies. It was an emergency. I needed a vacation. The casual cruelty was breathtaking. She'd taken my love, my money, my trust, and weaponized it all against me. Let me ask you something, I said, pulling out the last document, printouts of all the supportive messages I'd sent during her supposed breakdowns. When you were reading these, when I was trying to help you through your spirals, what did you feel? She looked at the messages, then back at me. For a moment, I thought I saw something human flicker across her face, but it was gone quickly. Nothing. She shrugged like I'd asked about the weather. I felt nothing, and that was it, the final piece. I wasn't dealing with someone who'd made mistakes. I was dealing with someone who felt nothing when I poured my heart out trying to help her. I gathered the papers, stood up. Where are you going? She asked, sounding uncertain for the first time. Away from you. Aurelius, wait, we can work this out. I know I made mistakes, but— Don't light yourself on fire to keep someone else warm, I said, walking away. Learned that the hard way. I didn't go home to Prague right away. Spent 3 days in a Vienna hotel putting my life back together piece by piece. First, damage control. Canceled the backup card, changed every password, closed every shared account. Nearly 12,000 euros gone. Bank said I'd handed it over willingly. Expensive lesson learned. Then the goodbye. One final email. Serafina, all accounts are closed. The credit card is canceled. Please don't contact me. We have nothing left to discuss. Aurelius. I turned off my phone for 48 hours, took long walks, ate good food. For the first time in months, I slept through the night. When I turned it back on, chaos waited. 47 missed calls, tearful apologies mixed with blame and threats. I read everything once, then deleted it all. Blocked her everywhere. No more getting pulled into crisis mode. Work became my refuge. No more drama, no more emotional labor. My mind was clear for the first time in months, and it showed. Clients noticed, projects flowed, money came back. I took a solo trip to the Amalfi Coast last month, first real vacation in years. Worked mornings, read by the sea in the afternoons. No one to manage, no crises to solve, no emotional labor to perform. For the first time in 9 months, I felt peace. I'm not someone's emotional support system anymore. I'm my own person again, and that feels pretty good.